Gentleman Style Show.
I'm digging them socks, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I looked at when I was talking and I almost got distracted. So they pulled it. I was like, damn, those are tight.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Yeah, so I was upstairs. I took one of the rooms in my home and made it my office, right? And I was up there working on my first piece. And it was a steel gray. I never forget, steel gray is almost like light gray. You know, it says steel gray, but it's a light gray. And I was sewing. But when I was coming through, the needle, boom. But I didn't pay too much attention. I'm still sewing and I'm working with the hat. Well, I'm leaving little blood droppings, right? And when I flipped it over to make sure I was lined up, I said, dog, the great thing about it was on the outside portion that I was gonna cut, right? Because you gotta cut it anyway. But me not thinking, I'm like, oh man, I ruined this hat. So I ran downstairs and tell my wife, I said, man, I gotta start all over. I had a deadline, right? And she was just, calm down. My wife's a nurse, right? She said, calm down, calm down. She said, go get that bottle of peroxide. So I ran in the bathroom, panicking. I'm just moving stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I done ruined this hat. She went out there, mom had put some little cotton swab. She dabbed it, it started coming off, right? I started breathing more, right? I was about to pass out, lightheaded. And it came off, and that was the valuable lesson in that to me was, if it's meant, don't try to overcompensate and take it further than what it is. Don't panic. I was covered. I got you, basically how I felt from however I look at it from a higher spirit. And ever since then, man, I just let that ride. I don't panic.
You know, I'm gonna tell you something crazy. I just had a thought when you said that, and the blood was on the hat and everything. I wouldn't want you to take the blood off the hat. I want to keep it like that.
Sweat blood and tears.
This hat is like serious. This is real. I can sit and tell somebody a story. This is his blood.
That's what you were going to say. I thought you were going to say you left the blood on there and it ended up being, it looked great.
Part of it. Yeah, so it was, I mean, I got to picture him in Dominique Wilkins' bathroom looking at himself, and he turns around and he's biting his bottom lip, and he got his hand out so far that when he shook my hand, it rocked my watch, my shoulder, he pulled me in, and that's when I knew we was on to something. Like that was it. And we hadn't looked back since. Like honestly, haven't looked back since. And it started out as therapy, right? Because we were challenged to find outlets. I thought bourbon was my outlet, and and when I say bourbon, I'm not consuming it all the time. Or whiskey, It's just the stories. So I start following other stories. But I had wore a hat at an event, and I took the Uncle Nearest label and had it put on the hat and wore it at one of their events in Tennessee, and it just blew everyone. People was asking, where did you get it from? Where did you get it from? Where did you get it from? Where did you buy it from? Until it got to a point where they said, hey, Tex, we need those hats in our retail shop. So I make the hats that are at the retail shop right now. Now, those are not custom handmade hats. Right. Those are acquired hats, and I accessorize them. There's two differences. Right. So when people see those hats up there, they will contact me and say, hey, I want a custom hat. I have to make sure they understand that there's a totally different
price point.
in price points. Yeah. And laboring and all that, and a lot of people, they understand it. So I just put a hat on their beverage director's head inside of a Humble Baron restaurant they have there. He's the first one to wear my custom hats on their premises, and I'm sure that's gonna, drive more people our way. And I notice I said we and our because, like I said, Jay, Adam, all of us are in this together. I never exclude those brothers, even though they were never in the picture when I, was thinking of this process. But that's how the chips fell, And Jay makes these custom bow ties. He's into wine and all kind of other things, and Adam makes all these suits, and when it's just so many different people that play a part, and we all like-minded. We all just entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, just grinding. Until where now I'm at a level of being around brothers and sisters that have these meetings called meeting of the minds, right? We just sit down and we talk about how can we make the next move the best move, and learn about different things, levels of banking and things of that nature that I had no idea and knew nothing about, right? You know, you go to a bank and you ask them what's the most they can lend you, and if it's $1 million, you surpass that in your revenue, your returns on investment and things of that nature, your EBITDA, however you want to call it, to get additional funding, you're not going to be able to possibly go to a corner, Wells Fargo or Bank of America. You might have to go to a broker or somebody like that, or a specialty bank, right? Who manage accounts that are over $1 million and higher, and then you get into your billion and $1 trillion accounts, which is, you know, the Chase and JP Morgan, those kind of institutions like that. I didn't know that. So when I sit with these millionaires, right? I call myself a thousandaire, right? And I'm okay with that. It was jewels being dropped. I turned right back around and I shared it. I said, hey, you gotta have a business plan. You have to have insurance. You have to have coverage. You have to be, you know, licensed with the county and have your filing with the county to get your certs and things of that nature, and all kinds of other things that's behind the scene. You know, and we as a people, we typically jump out there. I think the most coolest thing is someone say, hey, give me a call, man. This is what I do, and a business card is handwritten. You know, you see that a lot, and that's just because that's that discernment in us. That's that raw, natural hustler in us that we've had for over hundreds and hundreds of years to overcome anything. And when I see that, I always put them to the side. Hey, brother, you may want sister, you may want to consider this, because it's jewels that I was given. In retrospect, I turn it back and give it all away. I don't want to take nothing with me. I want to, like I just said a couple of days ago. My grandmother, unfortunately, she passed, and she left nothing on the table. She gave it all away, and I don't want to have nothing in my pockets. I want to have my pockets inside out when it's ever my time. But at the end of the day, we have to do better when it comes to that, because we can put the cart before the horse, and sometimes somebody will take the horse and the cart won't move. Right. You know what I mean? So you got to be intuitive of that and be in tune, because there are people out there that like to buy other people's ideas, right? No, so if you're not covered by whether it's your EIN or your proper filing with LLC and naming, and I remember this guy, he challenged me, right? He said, why is it that you and your wife could make more money if y'all was partners versus partners? I said,
explain.
Right. So I'm sitting there like, what do you mean? He said, well, that's your partner, she's your wife, but you don't get as many tax breaks if y'all was business partners. Right. He said, so you might want to change your SSN to EIN. You might want to change your name into LLC. He started, like flipping it. He said, why is it that, you think some companies get all these tax breaks, these big companies, and then they'll give a stimulus to a tip and a happy, and then say, oh, we're going to take 28% of that, and then you got to pay 75% of that back, but you really get anything, right? Versus the big corporations sometimes get write-offs, like they get that waive. They can just, it'd be written off because they let them have a write-off on it or whatever the case may be. And when he said that, I said, I'll be doggone it. He said, you have to align yourself with this conglomerate company, better known as a country. And when you do that, you hence get more benefits for you and your family versus being partners.
Let me ask you a question on that note right there and see how you feel about this, because the education thing from a financial standpoint is really not rooted in our community.
It's not.
We're just coming around right now. There's a fraction of people trying to learn and get caught up,
right?
To that degree, and you're sharing a whole lot of jewels,
right,
with us and the audience as well. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
Financial literacy?
Yeah, what was I going to tell you? I forgot. Yeah, I lost train of thought.
It's okay.
Yeah, we'll circle back around to it.
It's okay. Yeah, I think you was spot on when they don't even teach that in school. They started to a little bit now, right? And mom.
Oh, I know
Go
what
ahead.
it was. I know what it was. Because we're so deficient in our community about that, right? And sometimes people give a lot of pushback to like the millionaires and billionaires because they're doing business, correct?
Correct.
But me just delving into it more and more because I was never taught all of this stuff. I'm learning it
Right.
now as I go along. To me, and tell me if you agree or disagree, the pushback on millionaires and billionaires, you see it in like the media. Oh, they doing this, they're doing that. They just greedy. They're trying to get money. But the way America is set up, capitalistic society,
Right.
that's just the way it is.
Right.
Why challenge that? We should be like more so getting with the program and figuring out the rules and regulations. When you talk about LLCs and
Yep.
EINs and all of that, and let's just do the business. We're
Right.
here, and this is the way it's set up.
Right.
Let's. How do you feel about all of that?
I agree with the alignment portion of the company side or the conglomerate company side or the country side, because that's not going to change.
Right, that's not going to change. It's rooted in how this was built.
That's how it runs.
Right.
Right. We can try to change the narrative as much as we want, but that's that whole David and Goliath kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But when you look at it from the perspective of trying to have better resources, better opportunities, it's okay to align yourself, but that don't mean you don't have to come back and do the very purpose you want. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So I don't mind crossing the fence and going and learning everything that I can, and obviously get the capital that come with it to go back and invest in a company that don't have the opportunity to have to go in the bank and get that capital. I've done it before. Sometimes they only take $5,000. I don't mean to say only. Sometimes it takes $5,000. I've done it before. I've gifted $5,000 for someone to pursue their dream. They're not in debt. They don't owe nobody nothing. They starting out from ground zero up versus going in the negative, right? And then trying to get there and then get the profit, right? Which hence sometimes give you unrealistic expectations. Like your pricing might be up because now you're trying to play catch up. So, and then that's when why brothers and sisters prices be so high? Well, 99 times out of 10, 100 rather, it's because they're trying to get out that hole, right? Some don't want to go to banks and get a loan. Some don't even know they can go and get grants and things of that nature. There's money out there, and the people that know about it are the ones who's keeping it in their pocket because it's more, unfortunately, sometimes for that side of the fence, right? So it's okay to go find out and to come back and to give those jewels. Like again, I sit at the table and they throw $500,000 around like it ain't nothing, $1 million around, and when you get acclimated to that and get accustomed to that, it's nothing but day-to-day living for them. Right. I never forget I was with a brother. His payroll. Let me get it right. And it's not no proprietary information. He was just sharing it with me. Yeah. I think he's bringing in $105,000 a month. That's what he was bringing in. His payroll was $65,000 a month. Hence, he's bringing in $40,000 a month by himself. Right. So it wasn't nothing for him to go drop 10 to 15 on this and do that and this and third. And I was hanging with him, and I never understood why I was with this brother. Like, how did our paths cross? Because my wife didn't really have a good feeling for him. My wife is really gifted when it comes to that gut, right? And eventually he asked, well, come work for me. I'll give you $10,000 a month, yada, yada, yada. Me being, hey, well, my wife said, nope, you're not doing it. Devastated. But I didn't realize what I had learned from him. And everything I learned from him was to what not to do.
Really?
Yes.
Even
I could have, even at that price point. Right. Because to this day right now, he's probably not even nowhere near $1,000 a month. Right? Sometimes we can get blinded by money. And sometimes it just take order and discipline for the simplistic part to take you to another level. But are you gonna bite at this first one? Are you gonna possess the discipline that you're supposed to have to really reap what's for you down the road?
Without calling his name, can you give us one thing that you learned in that situation that he did wrong?
Sure. Yeah, it was unappreciative.
Okay.
Right. I don't believe. In my heart of heart, I don't believe he was appreciative of his opportunity.
Oh, okay.
I believe he squandered it, and he had so many opportunities. When you go back and look at it from a holistic perspective and from a spiritual perspective, it was so many warnings of get right. Right, so many warnings, and
was his attitude living up here instead of being humble and
bingo?
Is that what it was?
That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, and I never hit a woman. I never called a woman out of her name ever. That's just my morals. And when you loosely do things of that caliber, not physical,
right,
but just out of names and stuff. You know, there's you just got to do right.
Yeah, you damage a relationship.
Yeah, you lose all kind of stuff. So I believe you're just doing right with things. And I remember one of my buddies said, he's not going to trust you with $4,000. No, he's not going to trust you with $400,000 if you can't be trusted with $4,000.
Right.
So you have to have that discipline. And I think at times when you start getting it in, you know, some people, not all people, because there's a lot of good ones out there, but some people lose their way. Right. You know, and unfortunately he had lost his way a little bit, but I learned so much from him, you know, and I could have easily went over there and made the money, but what habits would I have learned as well versus what I'm learning now with the people I'm around right now. And they all have taken a liking to what we bring to the table. When I say we, because again, like I said, I have different companies. It's a lot more, it's just gratification. Right. You know, I feel better this route. I could have easily went that route, but I did not know what was being put before me to get me where I'm at today. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that I possessed the fortitude and had the support to see something that I didn't see, because all I saw was $10,000 a month on top of what I was already getting coming in. It was going to be, you know, it was going to be really good. But nevertheless, I got it out the mud. You know, and I'm still getting it out the mud, and that's what these kids said. And they don't stop. You know, I'm 50 right now. I don't believe in no age cap going after your dreams. You know, I think that is a narrative that we need to go away from. Right. I think we need to go opposite of that. You know, and you're never too late to pursue your dreams.
Absolutely.
You know, and sometimes they manifest in you at a later date, so it could really be holistic. It can be complete when it comes out versus premature.
Yeah, because sometimes it just takes a while to accumulate that information.
It does.
In order to make it happen, you put it together.
It does.
All need to mesh.
Right.
Key piece of that was that you listen to your wife.
Yeah. Happy wife, happy life, man.
You listen to your wife.
Yeah.
The key piece.
You're right.
Yeah, and she's taught me so much. I'm not gonna even act like I'm this, you know, big tough guy, you know, with all these combat deployments and things of that nature. Like, she has really taught me of being intentional. You know, now I stop, I listen, I focus, I understand, I process it, then I come out. You know, and she's taught me that in so many levels. It's ridiculous, you know, and I told her yesterday she the GOAT, man. She the GOAT, real talk. Yeah.
I think people miss that though. Having a good counterpart is a definite driver, because I think by ourselves we can run wild somewhat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no discipline.
Yeah,
You know,
it's pure accountability.
pure accountability.
Pure accountability.
They keep us in check.
Bingo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Designs by Ronamus Stone.
RonamusStone.com. The 1229 collection is a classic line of products that brings your vision to life.
Let's transition back a little
Sure.
bit. We talked a little bit early on about therapy, right?
Sure.
And, coming from a military background, transitioning into to being a regular citizen, so to speak, did you recognize you needed therapy, or was that just part of the transition for you?
I needed it. I was very confrontational. I was quick. Wasn't no gray area. It's either white or black. And I looked at, if you were not on my side, you was an adversary. You was somebody that was trying to do some harm to me. And the only way I was taught to deal with that was to eliminate it, right? So my first year and a half back in the world, we call it, I think I almost got in 4 altercations. And nothing physical, but it got real contentious, face to face sometimes, red lights. I'm like, man, something ain't right, And I remember going to see my psychiatrist. She said, well, why don't you try this combat group? I think it'll work. Give it a shot. I said, all right, I'll go. I said, whatever. So we go twice a month. My first one, I went in there. He had some people from Vietnam, people from Iraq, people from Saudi Arabia, people from Afghanistan. These are campaigns. I was one of the youngest ones in there, but I was one of the highest rankest one in there as well, which was weird. But they helped peel them layers back, peel that onion back, man, and get to the core of it. And the core was I never turned off that switch. When you get to such high of intensity where any move could cost you, right? Now your alert is always on 10. So it's and then when you come back into the FOB, the forward observation base, back to your rear, and you could come down, there was no processing there. You just go up and straight down, up, straight down. And being here, someone, hey man, see, you just stepped on my whole foot and or whatever. It wasn't even no first. Right. What do you mean? Like, what you trying to do? Like, you right in the person's face, and I never forget, I said something to my daughter and she jumped. And I said, man, this is not gonna work. Yeah. And it was just my whole, hey, it was that quick, and I have a very distinctive voice now, my wife tells me. And then when it goes up, and it could be, intimidating. So when she did that, man, I said, nah, this is not gonna happen. And we just was hugging the other day, and I was like, she's having some challenges in school. That whole COVID thing threw them kids off, man. And she was frustrated. She didn't think I was listening, and she started crying. And I'm getting frustrated because she's crying. I'm like, she said, you say you're gonna be cool. I said, you right. And right in that moment, I digressed. And she opened up, I hugged her. I said, I want you to know I heard you. She said, I know you did. Went up to the room, started playing like it never happened. But I couldn't say that I could have done that 5-6 years ago. It probably would have been real bad, I wouldn't have saw that at all. I would have just like, no, you need to do this. I don't want to hear this. And she's a young adult, and I don't want to teach her habits that make her think that that's the way you handle things when you get older. So, I've been vulnerable, man. You know what I'm saying? I've been very vulnerable.
I feel that because I've noticed that myself a few times, and I had to really check myself. Just, kind of the way I was raised and all that, and, being, just solitary kind of sort of, and just stern, because I wasn't really raised around kids. I was always raised around adults. I didn't grow up, in the early years like that. So I always had like this stern attitude. And I was like, and people, like my daughter told me, she was like, Dad, are you mad? What? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm not upset or anything like that. But the translation of it.
The deliveries, everything.
The delivery of it.
Everything.
I'm like, man, I need to check myself. I might be saying something too harsh and not even realize it. You know, I don't even realize that. You know, because you touched me with that one.
Yeah, I had no choice, you know, and just to be completely vulnerable, mom and I and my sister, it was tough a little bit, you know what I mean, and single family household. Dad went off, did his thing. He came back, he's in my life. I love him to death. No one gave him a booklet on how to be a dad. No one gave my mom a booklet. We hit a little homelessness a little bit, you know what I'm saying? I had to go move in with a friend in the neighborhood. So that just built all this character in me. And now that's why I'm so adamant on giving back. I'm so adamant on making sure we as a people, or just people in general, understand our plight and where we want to go in life. And the only way is to just pass those jewels back, and I'm still learning, but there's no book to it. And it goes back to financial literacy, which you just spoke upon, all those things like that are just compound, and then when you look at it from so many different levels, it's like, okay, where's my groove? Like we all got on shoes, socks, and pants, and belts. Well, somebody said, you know what, I'm just gonna maximize the socks. And probably a millionaire, right? I don't want the shoes, the jacket, and all that. I just want the socks. Right. I just want the belt. Right. I just want the glasses. Right. And when people realize you don't have to have it all to go get to the bag, the better we will be. The better we will be. And everyone has a purpose. It just got to follow it so we all can move at the same time unilaterally. But, like I said, just being transparent as possible, because I think far too often, and this platform can go anywhere, but I could care less. That's not my concern. Of worrying about nothing that comes out my mouth is because I know I have a mission, right? And there's so many things, like I was mentioning earlier about things of going into the community and doing things with these kids and showing them different avenues of outlets. I came from the projects. When my mom qualified for a program, they moved us out the projects or subsidized housing, and just thrust us in this suburb neighborhood. These kids had their own TVs, bikes. I'm sharing stuff with my sister, fresh off a bunk bed. And they going in their house. I'm like, well, God, dog, like they rich, right? And I ran, and it's military infested. I mean, Air Force everywhere. They had the new cars. The kids had all this. And I never forget, man. I ran home. I was 13. I ran home. And it was a gentleman by the name of Covington Navy. I was one of the good friends with his son. He got out of his Mazda. You remember the Mazdas back in the 80s, man? Two-seater Mazda, He had his uniform on, he had his hat on. I still wear the gig line to this day, right? He had the gig line going down, pants starched, got out, popped his shoulder, said, what you boys doing? He said, we playing, because we was in the front yard. And I remember looking at him like, wow, that's who I want to be like. I want to be just like him. I left, ran home. I ran probably about a good mile and a half, man, because how far away from home. Went through the ditch, bust open the door, told my mom, I said, I'm joining the Army. So I'm going to join the Army, I'm going to take care of family at 13 years old. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but it manifested right then, and at 17, they let me go. They signed the paperwork. And I'm still doing it to this day. At least helping,
It's amazing when we pick up as kids that catch our eye and say, yeah, I'm going to tell you something that has nothing to do with anything that entrepreneurship, business, or nothing. There was this guy, I remember, from a small town, Clayton, North Carolina. There's this guy, you remember back in the day, those Regals, probably 82, 83.
Which one with the slant?
Yeah, with the slant. So he had this nice Regal, man, and, had the little pop-up sunroof in it. No, not sunroof, the T-tops. So he was riding, that thing stayed clean. I don't know what kind of wax or whatever he put on. I don't care if it rained or whatever. It was never any rain spots on that. Just stayed clean. White wall top. Nice car. But dude would get out that car, and I don't know what it was about him. He's always well dressed. I don't even know what dude did. Wasn't in the military or anything like that. But whatever it was, he had a legitimate job. Well dressed. But the one thing I always noticed when he got out, two things. He always had this gold chain on, and he always had a pinky ring on. And to this day, is the reason why I wear a pinky ring, because of that dude. It was like the coolest thing I've ever seen for whatever reason. I don't know what it was,
Right.
but it's that same thing that you saw.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was something that you saw in that you felt was prominent.
Oh, yeah.
That could take you where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
My thought a little bit was at some point I'm gonna have to find a direction that's gonna take me to a
Right.
place where I can wear damn pinky rings.
There
and
you
I
go.
want to on a regular basis.
It doesn't take much to change your life.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And just listening to you say that is the very reason of why I go back to the tough areas, because kids see certain examples, right? They don't see Mr. Williams coming out the house with that briefcase and walking to the bus and going to work and giving his whole check to the wife to take care of the family and just give me my cut. They don't see that often. I think I was a guest speaker at Crawford Long Middle School over there near the airport in Hateville and all that. I thought I was in Lean on Me. I thought I was in the movie. I swear I did.
We can laugh.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought I was. I got in there and it was tough. You know, them babies, they seen a lot. You know, I could see them in their face, and you know, I changed the whole narrative when they came in my session. I ain't even talk about nothing. I was supposed to talk about leadership and adversity. I talked about life skills, surviving, and getting past surviving to living.
Right.
You know, because some people still think they living, but they just surviving.
Right.
There's a difference between living and surviving. And I knew they wasn't connected with me. I had, you know, my bow tie on, but I had these shoes on. I'm a sneakerhead a little bit. And I had these dunks on, and the little boy said, "Where you get them shoes from?" And he knew how much they cost and everything. So that was my icebreaker. And once I got in there, I got into them a little bit, and we got up to that head. I started with the feet, but I got in their mind. And it goes back to what you're saying. I just, you know, pray that I was a Mr. Covington Navy to some of them on that day. And I have seen some of them at the lab. A gentleman brought a couple of kids to the lab, and phenomenal, man, full circle, you know. And I never thought that I'd be, you know, an owner of 2 companies, right, and have my master's. Couldn't read. I was in reading from 6th to 12th grade, you know, because we moved out the projects and went to the suburbs, so I had to pick up. Them kids were doing all kinds of stuff. So, all kinds of stuff. It was a little different in the suburbs. But nevertheless, I didn't have no choice, you know, so it's kind of tough for a kid to tell me what they can't get over. But that's not that I devalue what they're saying either. I listen to them. And I try to give them tangible tools to be better. Even though your mama and daddy might not be together, your mama yell at you, or your daddy do this, they're not perfect. They're not. Don't look at them to be perfect. You know, they don't have a booklet on how to raise you. So just take all the light you can out of it, and then when you're able to move your own light to your family, you just take the tangible things that you consider successful in their stories, because they are successful. They feed you, they clothe you. You know, they house you, all kinds of stuff. So there's a success to that. You just got to stay with the light side of it. And I think far too often we focus on so much negativity that we don't see the blatant light that's right in front of our very eyes. You know what I mean? So that's just where I'm at with that. So it goes back full circle to Tip Happy Hats, man. A happy story. You know, mom and daddy went through some struggles. Our ancestors went through struggles, but they didn't stop. My mom and dad didn't stop. You know, hence Tip Happy Hat. Here I am making hats that I thought I never, this tough guy, I thought I was all alpha male, you know, jumping out of tanks and doing things of that nature and crawling while rounds are coming and throwing grenades, to sewing. To sewing, listening to FKJ, you know, and that's French Kiwi Juice. That's some phenomenal music, but it's therapeutic for me. It takes me away. I could hear oceans and feel the breeze while I'm in there connecting with people. Sometimes I feel like they are sitting right next to me telling me how to make their hat. Right. You know, it might sound different, but I always believe, and a gentleman told me, if they can't categorize you, they criticize you. Meaning, if they can't put you in a box, they criticize you. And that's only because they do not understand you. Right. And that's okay.
And
that's okay.
that is big, right?
And those people, you put them. I kind of had to put them to the side a little bit and move along with your life. You can't.
It's easier said than done at times because there's so many of them around you.
Yeah.
But I remember we used to call people weird and different and nerdy.
Right.
Like, man, how many nerds you know in school, man, just successful in life now?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Well, most of them, well, for me, if you knew people, you had to feel that they would be successful, right? So you knew they were focused on something.
Right.
While we were running around having a good time and doing whatever we were doing, they were focused on something. Now, even some of those that were focused, they crumbled in with depression because that's a lot of pressure for a kid sometimes.
It is.
So to be, as great as you think you're going to be from, 5th grade to adulthood is a lot. It's kind of like being Michael Jackson, right?
Right.
Imagine being Michael Jackson as a kid, knowing that you're going to be the greatest entertainer there is, even in your mind. It's it's almost like you're labeled that. Mm-hmm. You go from 8-year-old, 9-year-old, so now you got to be a teenager. Now you've done more in that span of time than adults have done.
Right.
Made more money than your parents have made. Right. So you take that, scale it back a little, but as a kid, you wanted to be one of the best surgeons in the world. Right. So there's a focus that you have to have at such a young age. You ain't going out partying. You ain't going. You might get to the prom, maybe, but your focus is none of that. You don't care about the social part of it. And if you hit a wall somewhere along the way, a lot of people can't pick themselves up from that because you've only lived one way, and that was the success of being a surgeon. A friend of mine not once, but I was hanging out the other day with a friend of mine, and his cousin, I'm telling the story, ain't no names, but his cousin has a husband, or she got married. Well, that husband was supposed to be a doctor. Well, he wasn't able to pass his boards, right? So the thought of what you put into something for a long period of time, and then you have to figure out what to do next is extremely, one is deflating because if you lived your life for something for a long period of time and you can't make it happen, and again, it's not that you can't, but you just can't seem to get it done, and you figure different ways. That moment is what probably either makes or break you, right? Because you either have to say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this is what I wasn't put here to do. Maybe I have another purpose. Maybe I shouldn't be that great surgeon, but maybe I should be the people teaching how to become that great surgeon. Right. Maybe I should be in education within the medicine field. So I was hearing that, and I was sitting there thinking, like, that is a harsh thing that we don't always get when we look at our kids and realize, like, you should be president. You could be the greatest thing in the world. Right. But maybe not. Right. Maybe the greatest thing you can be is whatever you decide or figure out your passion is, and then let your purpose. Right, and let that drive you. So that was in my head when you were saying that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when I do mentorship, and let me recant that, life coaching, right? I always ask, especially because I spoke at Morehouse as well, come to think of it, and it was some scholars in there, and they believed it was the next Barack Obama in this group, right? And we were talking, and I said, where are you gonna go to school at? Well, I want to go to school here. And what are you gonna get your degree in? I want to get a degree in this. Well, where do you want to live? I want to live in Atlanta. I said, okay. What's the job demand for the degree you getting it in? What's the average annual salary that it pays? What's the average cost of living in Atlanta? If those don't line up, you're not living in Atlanta. You're gonna have to go where the money's at. So when we start showing them that, he was looking at me like, I'll be dang. Like, yeah, you need to go see what's in demand in this metropolitan area and how it coincides with what you get a degree in. 60 to 70% of our kids go to school, they got a degree on the wall, and they ain't even using it. It's because they didn't do things of that simplistic level. You have to sit these babies down. You got to give them the harsh reality. Okay, baby girl, you want to be living by daddy and mama. These are the top 5 career fields in this area. Do you like them? Because I'm not paying for you to go to school to just put that on the wall and don't use it. That's debt. It ain't nothing but a nice paperweight, right? So when you tell them and give it to them from that perspective, I always tell them, go to the Department of Labor and look at, the average salary for this and see what's in demand and see what's projected to come to this city, And when you graduate, you don't come out and say, well, dang, I got to move to Birmingham. Birmingham? That wasn't my plan. And that's when you get people living places like, I had no idea I was going to be in Iowa. Grand Rapids or wherever it is, So when you drop those on them just enough to let them go water them, that's enough right there, And then you were talking about the gentleman. I look at things metaphorically, like whether it's somebody homeless, what got them there? What was the triggers or the things or the signs that got them there? Why did that individual did not dial in to see how did they end up getting there? You know what I mean? I never faulted my mother for any of our situations, right? She had a medical situation. That is what flipped us upside down. That being said, when you get these jewels and you share them with these kids or these young adults, right? It's imperative that we be brutally honest with them. We gotta hurt some feelings. Everybody wants things to think it's gonna be peachy creamy. It's not. This world ain't designed like that. Even at the tender age of 50, I'm still figuring it, things out. So you look at it from that perspective. The only thing we can do is go back and give them the jewels. Now, what they do with them is on them, But I know I touched somebody that's gonna be listening to this. I need to look at the Department of Labor. I need to look at the average salary, what it costs to live in that area, and what area you want to live in. You know what I'm saying? Duluth, Roswell, Marietta, Henry, Clay, wherever you want to live, right? Then take it further. Look at the schools in those areas, and then look at the average educational level in that area. Look at the average salary in that area. That's going to tell you what kind of demographics you're going to run into in that area. Right. You can't be pulling up in a big body Benz and somebody else, they're looking at you differently. Yeah, so it can be different, and I think it's all in the numbers. If we just open it up and go see it, it'll help guide us with our passion. Not that it's the definitive thing to guide us, but it would assist in our guidance. Like I set my son down. What do you want to do? I want to do this. All right. This is where you want to live. I want to live. All right. You still in the top 3. I want to, you got knocked out. That ain't in there. What's next? You see I'm going with this? So when we had that conversation and we talked about it, he has a plan now. He know I'm going to graduate. Probably, hopefully, he want to go in the league if he can make it, God willing, whatever the case may be. If he don't, that's okay. Right. He got to back up and he can do whatever. And those are some of the things that help build for entrepreneurship, right? Because we started with entrepreneurship, and I want to, and that's fine and dandy, and my motto to myself is, I want to work to build my own dreams. I don't want to work to build somebody else's dreams.
I wholly believe that.
Yeah, and that's where we are. And I want to groom and build and put this in these kids early, And I like the ones that are called different, because I was different.
I think this is a good stopping point. I think we're coming up on like 2 hours.
Wow. Good.
And I think this could go on and on.
I mean, go ahead. One more thing. One last thing. The one thing that I will ask you is, with you making hats, who would be, that you haven't done yet, who would be the top 3 people that you could if you could put your hats on, dead or alive? Who would you put your hats on?
Wow. That's a first. You caught me on that one. I will say, oh man, that's some good ones. Whew. Let me process it, because I want to give you an answer. Martin Luther King for sure. Definitely would have loved to make one for him. My grandfather, he's passed.
Nice.
Just found out who he was a couple of years ago. His name was Willie Parker. I have a Willie collection with my Tip Happy hats. I named that after him. Because you have to, appreciate the ones before you. I would have loved for him to put one on from me. and this is a weird one, and I know it's gonna throw everybody off, but I like to put one on Jay-Z head. You know,
I'm not mad at that.
yeah, have him have his head down and just rock a big one. I can make big ones. You know, it'll fit him. But I think what the way he's just grown from his first album to where he's at now, being this business mogul and doing what he's doing. Him and LeBron and them guys like that,
Right.
their blueprint is phenomenal, and I'm not a fanatic, which means I'm not a fan, but I enjoy their journey.
Right.
I enjoy witnessing their journey. So those would be some of the ones if I really had to just like, if I could really. Now I had Amari Hardwick on the hook, but lost contact with him. He's the brother that played Ghost in Power. Yeah. So we started and we lost contact. And Chad Coleman's another one. Me and him, he played in Django and some other movies, I believe. But he's another one that got away from me a little bit. But
They'll be back.
they'll be back. They'll be back. Yeah.
They will be back.
Yeah, they'll be back. This is phenomenal, gentlemen. I think this is great.
Well, that's your camera.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the people where they can find you and any other information you need.
Okay. So you could find Tip Happy Hats on major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. I just got on TikTok. And we have the videos on YouTube. I did not do a website intentionally. And the reason why I didn't do that is when you call me and we have our consultation, I tell you. You get on any of those platforms, you can find me, Tip Happy Hats. Again, we just look forward to working with people, making sure that we can make an introvert into extrovert, by way of an expression on their head. So, that's just where you can find us at. I got other business entities, but I'm going to leave it with Tip Happy Hats right now, and that's it. Phone number?
If you like.
Phone number is 404-844-1463. You could call or text, because I know some people are not all on social media. So that's why I went ahead and put one on YouTube, so you don't require you to have a membership over there. Instagram does. You have to have an account. Facebook does. I think TikTok does as well. So I want to be able to touch all different facets so people can have access to us. So thank you for your support in advance, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice.
All right.
Anything else? Good.
All right, go ahead.
Like we always like to say, there is no excuse for good taste, because here at the Gentleman of Style Show, we believe in better.
Till next time.
That's what's up, man. That was fun. I kind of went left on y'all talking about some other stuff, but it's all good.
That was bad.
Relax and enjoy.